you, thank you. Hey, everyone. Yeah, my name is Misha Berveno, and I'm, for the past 6.5 years, I've been the lead writer and founder of No Country Studio. But actually, just now, last week, before presenting here, I switched and I joined Clio as a senior writer and editor. So this is my sort of last talk as a founder. But what is No Country Studio? So No Country Studio is a copywriting studio for tech companies. And here's the obligatory list of clients to show you that I supposedly know what I'm talking about. So I've worked with everyone from Thinkific to Vizier, Y-Yoga, 50-plus clients, mostly tech companies in Vancouver. This is the services we offer, the tone and voice, which is sort of my specialty, but also copywriting, editing, advertising, script writing. So thinking about what to present to you today, the initial idea was to show you some copywriting projects. And I kind of went through some copywriting projects, and I noticed that, well, they look nice. But the thing is they look nice just because I work with a designer to make them look nice. And then the truth is that most of my time I spent in Google Docs. By the show of hands, who uses Google Docs here? Right, so who uses Microsoft Word? My sympathies. But then the work in Google Docs is not, it doesn't look as, this is like a typical Google Docs experience, right? And it's okay, but it doesn't look, it's not really memorable. It's kind of bland. It doesn't really stand out. And this is the work that we do most of the time. It's not a portfolio work, it's like day-to-day work. And everyone from copywriters like me to designers to managers, developers, they all use some text editor like Google Docs or something else. And then how do we make this a little bit more memorable? And how do we make this experience, the text editor experience, a little bit nicer? So today, my talk is going to be about a few tips of how you can sort of typeset your documents so they go from something like this to something like this. And you don't have to remember everything I'm going to tell you because it's going to be pretty detailed. But what I'm going to do is at the end of the talk, I'm going to share in 1.5. It's probably good. Like here in the document, I have mine set at 1.5. So this is if you go to File and Page Setup, you can kind of increase the margins. That's the tip one. Tip two is line length. And this is what a lot of websites and documents kind of get wrong is the line is just too big. And if your line is too long, it's kind of hard to follow the line. It's hard to follow the next line. So it's easy to get lost in the documents. And the ideal line length, from my experience, is somewhere between 80 and 90 characters. And how do you do that is like you can select any line and then just go, say, if you're in Google Docs, you can go like Shift-Command-C or the tools word count, and it'll show you the number of characters you have in the line. So I have 85. If you set it somewhere between 80 and 90, it's going to be a good experience. But then how do you do that? Well, first thing is the margins, which we just covered. And the second thing is the font size that you're going to have. The regular font size kind of goes in between 10 and 12, so you can kind of like adjust that to get the line length just right. Does it matter which font you use? Not really. Like I use Droid Serif. But you can use Calibri or Arial or Helvetica. Like it doesn't matter if you don't exactly know which font to use, which font you want to use, just use the default one. Then we have the other thing is line spacing. Line spacing is essentially the spacing you get in between lines in every one of your documents. Usually it's set to 1, which is a typographer will usually set the whatever font size you have and add a little bit of padding on the bottom and on the top. So if you increase it a little bit, it just gives a little bit of more breathing for your document, and it makes it a little nicer experience. And you can do that in Google Docs as well if you go to that menu, which is called custom spacing and paragraph spacing, and you can increase the custom spacing to somewhere between 1.1 and 1.3 from the regular default 1. Lastly, the third point that most documents get wrong is the heading hierarchy and the element spacing within the document. So if you click on normal text, you can see the hierarchy of a typical document. So this is, for example, this is mine from my template. And the problem with most hierarchies is that the headings that they have are just simply too large, and then they don't differentiate between each other. So what you want to try to do, well, first of all, you can just copy this once and kind of go from here. But if you want to try to create your hierarchy, and then you identify the elements you use, for example, the heading 1 and 2 and 3, and say you go down to 4, you can start from 4 and just make it slightly bigger than your regular text size. So if my text size is 11, then, for example, my H4 can be 12, my H3 can be 13, my H2 can be 14, and then, for example, for me, I jump H1 is 20 points, and then the title is 30 points. So you can kind of go larger on the title and the H2, but then the other ones I can keep pretty close to text size, and then I differentiate by different shades of gray, and then italicize them as well. So I can tell right away from seeing like a heading, seeing my H3, because it's in italics, I can tell right away that it's H3 and not the H4 or H2, which creates like a better reading experience, especially if you have long documents. The final point I want to share with you is element spacing within a document. So normally, when you want to space out things, when you want to put a space in the document, which key do you use on the computer? Anyone? Enter, or like return. Well, actually use the return twice. So this is what typographers call a double carriage return. So you put a space kind of right in between, and you can see the problem is kind of like set here. And the double carriage return comes from typewriters, because typewriters don't have spacing functionality within them. So like to make space in the typewriter, you just hit the carriage return twice. The problem it creates is that you don't see where the problem fits in the document. Is it attributed to the section that follows, the section that precedes itself? And when you have a large document, it can become confusing, or the space can become too large. So what you can do is essentially you can typeset. So if you typeset it correctly, then you can see that the problem is attributed to that following section and not to the previous section. And you do that by essentially going to the same menu in the custom spacing, and then you can set the points that you want for every single element to come before the element or after the element. And then you can do that for every single element. So, and if you do it right once, you never have to do it again. So for example, like this is just an example. You don't have to remember this. It's in the template as well. But for example, the paragraph would go something like 5 points before and 6 points after. And then the H2s, H3s, H4s would go something like 15 or 20 before and 0 after, because they're followed by a paragraph, so they don't need spacing after. But then something like the H1 and the title, they have 0 before because they're usually the first elements in the document, but they would have like a little bit after because they're followed by one of the other H2s or H3s. So this is sort of how my hierarchy looks like. And if you adjust everything, so if you copy my styles and then adjust everything, then you kind of go into the normal text, the menu, and you save as my default styles, which is, we'll just make sure that those styles are then applied to every single document. Or if you go into one of your older documents and you want the styles to be applied as well, you just use my default styles. So, what we covered today, a few tips, is ideal margins that you want in a document are somewhere between 1 inch and 1.5 inch. Line length should be somewhere between 80 and 90 characters. Line spacing between 1.1 and 1.3. Gradual heading hierarchy is nice. If you want to create, they start from like very close to the text and just sort of go above. And then try to build spacing for each element. And most importantly, what I want to dare you is to never press return twice. And if you manage that and your documents still look nice, that means you probably succeeded and probably the document is typeset correctly. If you want more information about all of that stuff, I suggest you reading Practical Typography by Matthew Budrick. It's available online for free. It's an amazing book, and then you can like donate and support the book. After, if you want the template, this is a template on the QR code right there. If you don't get the QR code, you can just email me at misha@nocountry.studio or anywhere else you can find me online. Connect with me on LinkedIn. My name is Misha Berveno, and this has been how to make your documents just a little nicer. Thank you.